Hey everyone! You know, Kidder Music Service is one of the greatest assets to our school district. From providing day to day materials like reeds and valve oil to purchasing pieces of sound and instrumental equipment, there isn't anything they can't do. Kidder Music Service helps our students sound the best they can each and every day, and we are proud to call them a Music in the Making sponsor. If you are looking for similar materials for your school, don't hesitate to call and ask for assistance and mention us, Music in the Making, today. Their number is 309 692 4040 or visit kiddermusic.com, that's KIDDER music.com today for all your music classroom needs. And now, on to the podcast. Welcome to Music in the Making.
That's illegal.
I want to be with you everywhere. A Halloween party. Oh, that's fun. Let's talk about work.
Not what I said. Well, and I like Stanridge, so it's like I kind of.
Well, you guys are friends?
Yeah,
You guys
I talked
are
to
friends?
him. Yeah, we talked
to him last week.
a whole 5 minutes at Midwest last year. We are 3 high school and junior high music teachers from West Central Illinois.
And someone had to go to the bathroom during intermission and missed it. And that someone is me.
Yeah! Each week we will talk about our experiences in the classroom, community, and personal lives too. Please welcome your hosts, Lisa Hallen.
We say move all this stuff down there, and then it gets moved, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, why have we moved that from there to there to there? Stop recording.
Art Martinez. Happy Friday if it's not a Friday, or Saturday or Sunday, or if you're Lisa, it's a week later. And Kevin Ferry.
I don't know what you're talking about.
During class. Mark. Oh, okay.
Kevin Mark.
There. I like it.
Kevin Marquez.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And one of them is Crispin.
Okay, all right. David, why don't you scoot a little bit closer that way, just so you could be like not.
Nearer to
In the window.
Yeah, closer to, just so that you're not directly
Get
behind.
closer to your bestie.
Exactly. I'll say your best favorite student teacher. Well, we're live, people.
Play
Welcome.
ball, play ball, play ball.
When you have your own. Okay, so
1, 2, 3, go.
hang on. We have a way of doing this, people.
And it's play ball now.
It is not.
Yes, it is.
When you have your own baseball podcast about music, then you can do play ball. Welcome back to another episode of Music in the Making. Can you see us? Yay! We're here. We're all here. Not only are we all here, we have a special guest with us today, the one and only Mark Hayes.
Shout out.
Hello.
It is incredible to have. We've had many guests on our show, but this one I think tops them all. Sorry, Madeline. Just kidding. Shout out, Madeline. Mark, it's so awesome to have you here with us today. I think the kids had such a good time. You know, granted, I had to leave partly way through to go to the junior high, but I from the first minute, I think you guys were working with them. I think they were just loving it. And I think I said it to maybe Lisa or someone recently, saying that, you know, some of these kids probably realized what was happening, having you here, having the composer, the person who's worked on the music and know every bit about their song there. But for some people, they're like, okay, it's just a composer. Maybe years later they were recognized, like the great chance to do this. For us, we're like, oh my gosh, a composer who's really famous is here. Like, so
Who's not dead.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I bet you Mozart would be better. So anyway, so we appreciate your time and being out here. This is such a cool thing. So, from everyone, I guess, like, what was everybody else's point of view of the day, how the day went, since some of you were here a little bit longer, and Kevin was here too.
It was awesome. I mean, there wasn't anything I think we do differently. The kids got better. The kids were just so, in my opinion, and Mark can disagree with me if he wants, but they were so engaged. They were on point with him. I would say 98% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
They're right before lunch. Mark was like, yeah, I think we need to stop. But they got so much better. And just the feedback, the immediate feedback of, no, I didn't write a crescendo there.
Yes.
So don't crescendo there.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
I made this is an accent for a reason. And these are why I wrote these chords in this song for these words. So you can convey this. And I know a lot of them were just hooked, and we got so much better. Where Prayer of the Children started and where it ended, like people are going to be crying when the guys sing that song. They really, really are. It is so beautiful, so well written.
That's the mixed meter one, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I was like,
it's the one yesterday. I said, "Hey, Mark, prayer to the children," and before I could say the next word, he goes, "Yeah, it's hard."
yeah, no, they were working through that this morning, and I was like, man, that sounds really, really cool. Like, there's just something about like, choral music that I feel like band, of course, really has those moments where it really speaks to you. But like when you have like the text element to that,
Right.
on top of that, I think it just like it takes it to a whole different level. That, of course, as much as I love band, it can only take it so far when you have something in your mouth and you're blowing air into it. So
Yeah.
when the text is added to it, definitely adds. So that was a really, really cool piece, and seeing these guys work today. So you've done tons of these with other schools. I mean, I guess like with our kids, I guess are you see how any of the pieces that we did today, or is that are those any common pieces that other people do? Or are you surprised at like the repertoire that Kevin picked?
No, I'm not. I mean, and I don't get a chance to do this many pieces with high school choirs as I did today. So usually it's sometimes it's not an all day kind of thing. Sometimes it's like we're doing 3 of your pieces on our concert. Come work those for an hour or 2. So because of the size of Monmouth Roseville, right?
Yes, Roseville. Yes, yeah.
Okay, Roseville. Then I felt honored that I got to spend the whole day with them, and all the choirs were here all during the day, and could hear what I had to say to the men's choir, to the treble, jazz group. So that makes this clinic for me unique.
Shout out
And I
to the
appreciate
admin and the teachers for letting
Yeah,
the kids be.
that
I
is
mean,
so
like
cool.
that's not a thing I think that normally happens.
Right.
So
And I've got to shout out the Monmouth Roseville Education Foundation
Shout
and
out.
the Galesburg Community
Shout out.
Foundation. Is that what? That,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
so.
it was.
They were the ones responsible for getting the grant money to allow this to take place, and Amanda Pilger was huge
Shout
on
out.
that.
Shout out, yeah.
Yeah, and so like I'm gonna shut up because they don't want to hear from me, but I did want to get that in. But yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the fact that you're sitting here. Like we like instead of just like us talking about how good the piece is and like, oh my gosh, the composer's so great, you were here sitting with us. So we appreciate your time and everything. So yeah, I think the kids had an awesome time. Let's just talk about a little bit Mark Hayes then. So like, tell us a little bit about yourself. How long you've been writing music? What your journey to get you here today in Mount Roseville.
Well, I have a vivid memory of being 16 years old, and I started playing piano when I was 10 and started playing in church when I was 13, and I still play in a church in Kansas City whenever I'm around because I travel a fair amount on the weekends. But anyway, I think the reason why I stuck with piano is I had some place to go and do it, because unless you have a way to express your music and what you've learned, sometimes it just kind of falls by the wayside. I mean, sometimes when I do piano concerts, we'll say, how many people took piano lessons, and there's all these people that raise their hands. How many people still play? And then they all go down,
Yes, exactly.
So I'm very grateful that I got to do that. So I was 16. There was a bunch of things coming out at that time that were different in sacred music that were kind of like pop-sounding music with drums and bass and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, wow, this is really different than what I've been hearing. I want to write something of my own, like for youth choir.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I sat down and had all these ideas, and like, I don't know how to notate. I don't know what music theory is. I mean, I kind of knew, but not to be able to actually put it on paper was, the 5 lines and 4 spaces and all that. So that just shut me down. I thought, I'll never write anything. I'm so depressed, that kind of thing. Little did I know, And so what it took was going to college, continuing on playing, getting better, being a piano performance major, but learning about music theory and having to write little, Bach 2-part invention kind of things and all those things that, theory 1 and 2 make you do. But the thing that made it kind of me go, oh, this might be something I want to do was I had a singing group in college called Spirit of Love, and it was a Christian singing group. We sang in churches and wherever we could around on the weekends, and I was the arranger. And I certainly didn't consider myself a songwriter or a composer, but I knew how to take something because of my improvisational skills on the piano and write out things. I remember I was in a choir, the only choir I ever got to be in because I was always the accompanist. So it was a choir that sang for a service on Wednesday evenings. It was 40 people. It was auditioned. It was like really an honor to be in it. And the director said, "Hey, Mark, why don't you write an a cappella Christmas piece?"
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, really. So I wrote an arrangement of Angels We Have Heard on High, and there was a group back in the day called the Swingle Singers, and they sang like dabba 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 dabba. You know, it's kind of like faux classical Baroque-ish kind of stuff, but they used, you know, vocal sounds to do all that.
Sure.
And I wrote my arrangement in that style. And it was only, I think, maybe 2 verses long, but that we sang it in the Christmas show that this choir did. And everybody loved it. And so we thought, hey, we should be a group. So we got settled on 4 guys, a male quartet and a women's trio. And then I wrote, and I got, later on then, I got connected with a record label and a publishing company in Waco, Texas, where Baylor was, and they gave us a recording contract. And I thought, wow, this might be something cool. And so at 23, I got to orchestrate this thing, even though I had no idea what I was doing. We did part of it in Los Angeles, part of it in Dallas, and we recorded the vocals in Dallas. And it came out, and there's like a whole choir book of my music called Spirit of Love, with some of it was kind of pop-sounding arrangements, some of it was kind of more liturgical church-sounding kind of thing, because we did an a cappella piece on it. And then the group kind of split up after that. There was no more of that group, but it was like got my name out there, which didn't mean a thing at that point. It's like Marquez who? It's not the Marquez. It's like what? You know. But what was so cool is I was playing the piano at a church in Kansas City area, and this choir came through from a college in Missouri, and they sang 4 of my pieces on their concert. And it's like, how did you get that music? How do you? And the guy who is Dr. Duncan Couch, he didn't even know who I was or that I was at that church, but I went up and introduced myself, and he said, I really like your music, you know, do you have any more? And I said, well, I can write some more. And so he commissioned me to write several things for his choir, which ended up being some of my best sellers, like that Swinging with the Saints, Kevin, I was talking to you about. I wrote that for Duncan Couch's big 200 voice kind of y'all come choir, college age, you know, and it's been one of my biggest sellers. So I thought, hey, maybe I can do this, you know, and moved on from there. And it's been, well, in 1980, I started out kind of on my own, and it's been 45 years since then. I've just been writing music full time.
That's
arranging, you know.
the dream.
Yeah.
Seriously, yeah. I mean, I think for, you know, I definitely agree with you. I'm only like in my 2nd or 3rd year writing music in general, and I feel like, you know, I feel like the barrier of like what would people like to have versus what I like.
Right.
I think is such a hard thing to kind of get past. Also, like, I've never felt like I've been a creative person. I've always just been like, just tell me how to do it, and I'll just do it that way. If I like it that way, I'll do it that way. Otherwise, I'll find a different way. Right. And I think when it comes to music, like, as much as there are rules, but you don't have to necessarily follow them. No, you know, and I think that's what's one of the most unique things about music is that there's still so much that has yet to be written. Even after how many years have you done it? Oh, right. There's still so much out there that hasn't been done yet. You know, I'm just kind of surprised. You know, I've surprised myself a couple times with how much is out there. So, did you ever have an opportunity to do other ensembles besides choir, or was choir the main thing?
It was kind of the main thing, but I started writing. I ended up, after I graduated Baylor, I stuck around Waco for a little bit and played for voice studios. So this was like at Baylor, you know, and they like wanted a good accompanist. So I kind of learned about how to sing from just sitting in those things. And I thought, I need to write some vocal solos. So I began writing that kind of style of music. And then also if I was like playing at a church or something and they had like, can you sing a solo tonight? We would make up something on the spot kind of thing, you know. And so that's something that was really enjoyable. I haven't written like full orchestra only songs very much. I've did some big overtures for some things and stuff like that, but mainly it's been orchestral stuff that is accompanying choir things. I did do like some guy hired me to do like a piano orchestra album. So it featured the piano, and we did everything from The Wizard of Oz to Jesus Loves Me, you know, and a patriotic medley kind of stuff. And so I got to write all the stuff that this guy wasn't playing, and then I wrote his piano parts too. So I've written stuff for 4 pianos, 4 grand pianos on stage.
Wow.
I just did a concert with 2 other pianists, so we had a 3-piano concert in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, near Harrisburg, a couple Sundays ago. All stuff that all 3 of us arranged. There's a guy named Joseph Martin who's
I've done some of his stuff.
yeah, he lives in Austin.
Shout out Joseph
Yeah,
Martin.
yeah.
We'll get him on next week.
And there's the other guy's name is Joel Rainey, and he lives in Chicago.
Shout out Joel Rainey.
Yeah. So they got we all arranged, you know, like I'd arrange one for 3, and then Joel would do one, and we all play each other's stuff, and we wore our big tails and flapped them and all that kind of stuff. And we had a great time. So I wrote for that. I've written certainly for some smaller like instrumental ensembles. I did play bassoon in high school and junior high.
I am a bassoonist.
No way.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
I love this guy.
Yeah. So you make your own reeds.
You guys can
I
put it
do.
out
I
there.
do.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
I was
Wow.
saying I switched from saxophone when I was in high school.
Okay.
So and now I play. It's like my main instrument. So.
I
But
love
he
it.
said he's the 4th bassoon part.
But I,
yeah,
fourth
yeah.
bassoon in the Quincy Symphony. Thank you, sir. No, so
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
so yeah, no, that's my actively still job playing. So yeah, but that's awesome.
That's cool.
I love this guy. This is great.
Yeah. So that's so cool. Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah,
go ahead, Kevin. No,
Kevin.
One thing that I love, and if you can talk about it, because Art really talks about with his venture into composing that a lot of composers don't write for the middle school level, right?
Right.
But I feel like a lot of your music, what I've done of your music, can you speak to in your mind what it's like? Like I need to make this accessible for junior high and high school age students, and not in that ilk of. You hit a little bit with it with the kids talking about the marketability and actually making a living doing it. But like, is that a thought process in your mind? Like, can a school like Monmouth Roseville sing this song?
So a big, huge thing. I always start with texts first. That so much informs what the song's going to sound like. Because the text, when you read it, you can kind of go, does it have a da 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 da? You know, what kind of rhythm is naturally there? Is it rhyme? All those kind of things. So that helps you know if you're going to write a verse chorus or it's going to be ABA or through compose, blah, blah, blah. So finding a text that makes sense to middle schoolers, like I'm an old guy. I don't know what that would be. And so that is my biggest struggle. So if I can get, I'm doing a shout out there to anybody listening. If you want to send a text to Mr. Mark Hayes that's good for middle schoolers, do that.
Are you on TikTok?
I have a TikTok account, but not very much.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So
That's very cool.
yeah, I try to limit how much social media I do because it just can like eat up your life. So anyway, but that, and then the other thing is like ranges, because I know we have changing voice kind of stuff. So all of my editors, if I ever write stuff for middle schoolers, junior high, you know, then I'm like, okay, they give me like, okay, the baritone has like an incredibly limited range. You know, can't go too high for the ones that the voices have already changed, and can't go too low for the ones that haven't changed. So it ends up being a lot of 3-part mixed kind of stuff, which, as I understand, that's what teachers are looking for. Is that true, Kevin?
Yeah, 100%.
But if I could get a text that seems fun, then I can write, you know, a kick-ass concert piece. You know, whether it's spirited or
Yeah.
Love it.
He can do what he wants.
I love it. That's awesome.
So, there you go.
I'm always yelling at them if you couldn't notice.
Yeah.
No, but this is your podcast.
Yeah.
So,
So,
well, that's fascinating about the text. I guess, like, have you ever gravitated towards certain poets or certain, like, maybe types of text, or is it just like you're scrolling through different types of, you know, poetry, and then you're like, you know what, that sounds really good? Like, I guess I'm curious, like, that aspect for choir, because again, words are part of the choir
Yeah.
rep versus band, which doesn't have text, but like there can be text to describe what's happening. So I guess I'm curious, like how you find your
Yeah. I don't have like my favorite poet kind of thing. There's some I mean, I love an ancient philosopher, Sufi philosopher called Rumi.
Shout out.
Rumi.
He's like 12th century.
He
so I
He
think
was
I
on
don't.
the pod.
He
for-
He definitely is a listener.
But
He's
he's
the listener from Greece.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, or
yeah.
Turkey, yeah.
yeah, right. So I mean, that's one that I've set more than one or two of his kind of things. But they have a kind of a spiritual vibe without being like certainly Christian, because he was probably like before Islam. He was probably more Islamic,
sure.
kind of Sufi kind of thing. So yeah, there's not so much that way. It's just like I work with other poets, live poets, have some people here in town, or not here in town, but in the States, that I just, okay, I am really struggling here. Can you save me here and give me a poem that I can write, because I've got to get this commission out, and what's, and usually I give them some direction, that
Sure.
kind of stuff, So
Anybody with any, here's how you know you've made it. It's not musicinthemaking.pod@gmail.com. No, it's Mark Hayes at markhayes.com. I am Mark Hayes
Yeah.
at markhayes.com.
yeah.
That's amazing.
So, but yeah, it's and I recently I did something with a friend of mine who's an amazing spoken word artist, and she writes poems, but poems are really different than lyrics. Because poems might be like prose. So
With
there's
the meter.
meter is non-existent or something, or there's no rhymes, or you have a melody where there's lines and it's in 3 or 4 time, whatever you're going to do, and you need to have the same number relatively syllables between the first and second, or like that second third verse, so it all can match. And that wasn't something that she understood until we started working together, and now we have one of our first pieces together published.
Cool.
And she's never been published as a musician before, so that was fun to kind of bring her into the fold and do that.
I'm sure it's exciting for also like someone who maybe never imagined their text becoming a different medium,
right.
and then
Yeah.
for it to kind of have almost like a new life is probably pretty awesome.
yeah. So, but I've written a couple like more Broadway style musicals with a friend of mine, Deborah, who lives in Kansas City. And
Shout out Deborah from
Shout
Kansas
out.
Yeah,
City.
there you go. Yeah, and she
Casey.
she's just she knows how to work with me, and she knows to have the meter to her rhythm already. And what I love writing for theatrical kind of things is where there's a story in the song that moves along the plot line of the show, as opposed to we're going to just stick in a song here in a theatrical production and hope it makes sense or works.
Sure.
That doesn't. I mean, I could see myself writing more of a Broadway style musical someday. That would be really cool.
So I think it's because you mentioned about writing for like Broadway musicals. So I guess for like a new production, if they're approaching a composer like you, do they just give you the script of like the story, and then they're like, we want songs for these ones, or like you're just seeing the story and you're like, this is definitely a song, or this song is definitely going to help bring out this portion of the story? I'm just always curious how that works.
Typically, I think most script writers know where the songs are going to be and what they need to kind of do to tell the story and bring it along. They don't necessarily have the lyrics already written, but they're going to like. Well, there's the pacing of a Broadway show too. If it's too much dialogue and not enough music, or too much music and not enough dialogue, then it doesn't work. So they have a sense about that, and I
Andrew
would.
Lloyd Webber would disagree with you.
Well, okay, yeah.
That's Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yeah.
Get it right. Yeah.
Shout out.
Shout out Sir Andrew. Yeah.
So I really appreciate when I get direction from like a writer like that, if it was going to be a show like that, and my friend Deborah and I work that well together. Or even if it's just like I'm writing a song that's just like a one-off, it's just a standalone kind of thing for a concert, and it needs to say this or move this along. As many parameters you can give me, like, to how it should work, even if I'm writing lyrics, that helps me. You said earlier that you didn't sometimes feel creative, and I'm kind of that way in the sense too. It's like people just say, well, write a song for us. Like, that's just not good. You need direction. You need to point it so it hit the mark.
Yeah, absolutely. Chloe, go.
Kind of going off of what you were just saying. So where do you get your inspiration from, especially like getting notes on the page. You
Yeah.
you have lyrics, or you get inspiration
Yeah.
from the lyrics to move it. But what makes you go in like a major way or a minor way or
Yeah. So I kind of the drill when I'm writing like a choir piece or even just a single song is I print out the lyrics on a piece of paper and sit them on my piano rack, you know, in my office, which is right next to my computer and all that. So it's like if inspiration strikes, I can get it down, you know, in my notation software. And I just kind of stare at it and I read it aloud and I think, okay, where's the melody? Where's the hidden melody in these songs? And I look at like the line that of text that kind of most captures me, because there's got to be, if it's decent lyrics, and otherwise I'm not going to even use them. And there's bound to be something that's going like, this is the kernel of truth or the most inspiring thing, and it's going to need to have a melody that soars or that's highly rhythmic, you know, or something like that. And I let that kind of talk to me, and then I sit at the piano and I go, okay, what's the mood of this? Do I want it to be? I mean, the lyrics kind of tell me. Sometimes it can go lots of different ways. But should it be a ballad or super up tempo and jazzy and rhythmic? Who's my audience? Is it like a worshipful thing, or is it purely for showbiz and entertainment kind of thing? All those questions have to kind of be asked and answered for me to kind of start and know where I want to go. And then I just sit and doodle at the piano, I improvise, and go, oh, that's kind of cool. I like that progression. I wonder what kind of a melody line might work with that. Or I hear the melody line first, and I can harmonize it like 5 different ways, what's going to have the song. And I'm also very much aware that like a song can be charted or graphed. There's got to be some climactic points. If it's kind of like this straight line all the way through, it's like, well, that is a bore, you know. And so I have to figure out what specific text is going to be the climactic point, and then like find the melody and music to kind of support it in that way. And then is it one of those songs where you have this really super high point, and then it's got a little codetta kind of thing that like it kind of simmers and then it ends softly and quietly and you're reflective about it? Or is it like boom and you're done kind of thing? So the text kind of helps me with that, and the music has to support that as well. So it's pretty much kind of graphed out in my mind, and sometimes I'll even write myself notes. This is what this is going to do here. But then once I get into actually writing it, sometimes that changes.
Yeah.
It has a life of its own.
So then you said that you write like piano songs, or I was looking at your webpage.
Yeah.
And you have like some like trumpet and piano songs as well. So without lyrics now, how is that? Do you just sit at the piano and you doodle and you're like, oh, that'd be kind of cool with trumpet?
So typically, a lot of times those are assignments. Like a publisher will say, we need a trumpet and piano song from you, and like if it's going to be for church or something, then we need it for Easter, so find an Easter melody or tune that you like and arrange that. So the melody's already done. So then it's like the trumpet part kind of writes itself, unless I want to change it up or I'm going to go on the second verse. The melody's going to be the piano part, and the trumpet's going to do an obligato or some kind of counter melody. So then I do it. So it's like kind of like that's pretty easy because it's like the song's already written.
Got it.
And obviously, as a arranger, which I first started out before, you know, I actually decided I was a composer. You know, there's a roadmap if there's already a song that you're arranging. So that's super helpful. Yeah. So.
Insightful. Soaking it in like a sponge.
Yeah.
It's like once I get into writing, it's so much fun. But it's like it's always just like that starting idea. I feel like it's just the worst. It's like where do, because it's like, oh wow, that sounds cool. Okay, what's next? You know, and it's and of course it's like there's so many decisions that could happen. But then when you're trying to, but I think again, what's so unique about choral music, and I've tried to write a couple of choral pieces. They're not great. Don't worry. So I'm not going to be posting those anytime soon. But I think
he said to me earlier he doesn't have competition.
Oh, hey. I have lots of it, at least in my head.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think like it's the text part. I think is is definitely an aid for that. But even then, like you can take maybe lyrics that have been everyone knows, and as soon as you put your spin on it, it's now been given different life. You know, I think it's a different interpretation of the lyrics. So maybe this was the original intent, but what if it was from the point of view of this person? Now the lyrics says something else, and I think that's something very unique to choral music. That I definitely enjoyed singing a lot in choirs in college. Like that was something that I was I look back on fondly and some of the crazy stuff that we sang. We did "Rejoice in the Lamb" by Benjamin Britten. I'm not sure if you
Wow.
that's like a whole other story where it's like this is like the notes from like a crazy person in Bedlam, and it's like it's you look at lyrics and like, oh my gosh, but how do you set music to that?
Oh, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
he did it. I mean, he did it. 40
yeah.
pages later, he did it. So
One thing you mentioned, you talked about like all these decisions you make, and that is true. It's like, is it 3/4 time? Is it 5/8? Is it 7/8? What key is it in? Major, minor, or here the melody goes up or down, and you can drive yourself crazy. So I know some composers that will spend like a year writing a major work, and I might take 3 months to do it because I make choices really quickly, and a lot of times they're kind of my first instinct about something. And I can sit there and drive myself crazy by all the other options, but I tend to kind of be just a person that's, I'm going to make a decision. If it's not good later, I will adjust it. But I need to get something down on paper, because otherwise then you're always like, well, what if?
yeah.
And then you never finish. So that has been my way of creating. It may not be work for everybody.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely have been lately just trying. If I have like 1 or 2 ideas that I feel like fit, I'll put those down, and then from there decide, okay, like what would be, if this is the main idea, then what's accompanying it. I've actually been writing percussion for percussion ensemble, but young percussion ensemble. I'm trying to write for our kids.
Yeah,
because I think that's one of the best things is that like our
It
kids
is.
actually got a unique experience, because not only did I write it for you, but like I'm building it towards you. Like
Yeah,
you are these are your talents that I'm
with
writing
your strengths,
for,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
think that's amazing. Well, here's the question for you. So, when I look at wind band music, all the instruments I feel like have their part to play in the ensemble, and with choral music, like if we are just talking about the 4 parts, SATB, right? Sopranos most of the time have the melody,
Yeah.
and altos have the one note line the entire time, because the altos love that.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and then tenors and basses are usually like the harmony, or like at least some sort of the bass. But I guess
Foundational,
like going back to the text, I guess when are you deciding that like, no, this is a TTBB song, or no, this is an SSA song, or SSAA, or whatever it is. Like I guess what are some ideas that are like when you're deciding the text, or from the text, or as part of your process, that you're deciding this ensemble fits this, or no, this version actually could go both. That's why I'm gonna write multiple versions of this, because it's so versatile. Or I guess
Right. A lot of that is determined by the editor of the publishing company that's going to publish it. Because a lot of these things are kind of assignments for me. It's pretty rare that I just say, I'm going to take a pop tune and do an arrangement of it. Because a lot of times, I don't know if I can get the copyright clearance on that. And that's always a huge thing about this. If I'm doing something that's public domain, no big deal. But I don't just sit down and write for the fun of it. Sometimes I'm just kind of writing because I know I have an assignment to do. And a lot of times the publishers will say, we'll put out the SATB and the SSA this year, and then like we'll wait and see how the sales are, do a TTBB or a TTB kind of thing, or a 3-part mixed or 2, and sometimes they'll stretch out all these different voicings, and they determine when it works for them. And I'm like, that's fine. I can easily do a revoicing something as long as the main structure of the first piece is there. And when I'm doing, like if I'm starting out and it's going to be an SATB, you want to kind of divvy up the melody here and there and decide, who's going to get to sing what, especially if there's multiple verses or sections. So that sometimes is relatively arbitrary, and it seems like there's a lot of times, since I write in the church market, there's this kind of formulaic thing. Well, the women always get the first verse, kind of thing, unison or whatever, and then it maybe splits it a little bit, and then maybe the guys come in a little later. Because just the practical thing of choirs, especially in churches, is like the average choir is 12 members, and there's no guys, or there's maybe basses, or they all sing the melody an octave lower, and so you can't count on divisi for the men. I'm always told by my editors, well, if you do that, it's not going to sell as well, because the people are not out there to be able to sing it. So unless I know that I've got a male choir, or or
in mind,
then I kind of steer away from that. And that's the whole thing about writing a cappella. Do you go 8 parts? Well, I mean, if I end up writing something for Monmouth Rosehill, Kevin and I have already kind of considered that, which would be really exciting. I need to know. I need to know. Do I get to have 8 parts, or do I need to keep it 4 and 6? Because it depends on if you have the guns that can blow that out of the water, and even if you have the number of singers on stage that theoretically do it, do they all have the strength to match up against everybody else? Because sometimes you have weaker and stronger voices and all those kind of things. But of course, I'll just leave that all on him.
Just make it for large choir and one choir director. I think that'll be fine. Yeah. For solo choir director up there.
Yeah, no, nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear
And
that.
I actually really do love writing a cappella music, but it doesn't have as much marketability, you know, frankly, in some of the places where I do it. So I have to kind of decide, okay, for every piece I write that's accompanied by something, then I get to maybe write, you know, like I have to 5 of those to one a cappella just to make sure that it can work.
Right. Do
So-
you write the piano accompaniment also to your pieces?
I always do.
That's
I
fascinating.
never let go of that because that's my main instrument. I love it.
Oh, that's cool.
And I actually have some composition students. I've had several composition students over the last 25 years. Most of them we do by Zoom. Had one that lived in Africa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Shout out,
yeah,
shout out
Africa.
Africa.
Yeah,
we're gonna have our
yeah.
population of listeners explode right
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
And
That's
I,
cool.
you know, have one that I have one right now, and she lives in Houston. I was in Houston last weekend. I got to meet her and had lunch with her. You know,
Shout
which
out.
was kind of fun.
Shout
yeah.
out
the Liz.
Houston.
The Liz.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So, but one of the things is a lot of those people that are my composition students are not pianists. So a lot of what we work on is how to write good piano accompaniments that really support what they want to do. In fact,
yeah.
even Liz and I are doing where she's doing piano solos,
Sure.
which that's not her main instrument, but she's really coming along. So
Al made the point today that he's what that tracks, like he's a piano player because his
Right.
accompaniments. You know, a piano player wrote him. He said because there's sometimes where accompaniments don't make sense.
No.
I've got 10 fingers and they only go this wide, and you want me to do what? And he's like, every one of your accompaniments are playable.
yeah.
Rachmaninoff has been dead for a long time. We can't be doing 13ths and stuff.
So one of the things that I'm very aware of when I write piano accompaniments is like if you've got the form of a song and there's a verse and a chorus and a second verse and a chorus and all that kind of stuff, a lot of pianists will cut and paste. They'll go, okay, we've got this chorus. It was good enough for chorus number 1. It's going to be good enough for chorus number 3. I don't go there. I might cut and paste some things, but then I take what I've pasted there and go, how can I change this up enough that it feels new and fresh? Because I am an accompanist. I love to play piano parts. And for those of you in the room that do that too, then you get bored. And I remember playing in church when I was 13 years old, and there was a lot of that kind of phoned in accompaniments that they were all the same all the way through, and they get a pattern that was just mind-numbingly boring, and then I would have to sit there and play that. And I thought I made a conscious choice at that point in my life as if I ever get to write piano accompaniments, not knowing that I would,
Right.
I will make sure they're fun to play.
Cool. I just kind of unlocked like a memory because I remember having a conversation with someone where like if the piano accompaniment is like the 5th voice of the choir, it's most likely a good piece because there's just something to like. It's not there to simply help the choir; it's to elevate the experience for everyone.
Yeah,
and I
it
think
is,
that's
yeah.
I think that makes a really really good piano and it's not just the accompaniment. It's like again like that missing part that maybe like if you took that away. The song might still work, the piece might still work, but adding that 5th part in there, the 5th part, I think a 5th player or whatever, kind of just gives it that extra oomph. So that's pretty cool. I noticed, I forget which it was one of the first ones that you guys were working on. I'm listening to Al, I'm like, wow, that's like some really beautiful piano.
Summertime, I think.
Oh, that might. No, that was it.
About to just
that
look
was
at,
it.
That's like the 5th voice.
I was like,
in
listening.
that
I'm like,
song.
wow, like this is like I'm not distracted by I'm not listening. I'm like loving how like it's all connecting. I'm like, well, it's creating the image. It's creating that
It
sense.
elevates the color of the jazz.
Yes.
Jazziness of
Yeah,
it.
that summertime arrangement is beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, like
It's
just
probably my favorite one that we're doing.
it's like there's just something about that particular piece of music and like within the world of music history that I feel like it really shook up all the things that everyone thought they knew about jazz and all they knew about opera and all the musicals and all these things and like it's one of those momentous moments and whether the kids recognize what they're singing or not, it's just for me to enjoy sitting there and listening to that like, oh my gosh, our kids are so good.
One of the other things I'm very aware of when writing piano accompaniments for choir things is like how many notes there are on the page because you can cram way too much stuff in that distracts from the choral part. So it's got to be just enough it's interesting for me to play it and then also support it. because I remember some of the first things I wrote, took it into one of the editors at a publishing, and it was like more black on the page than white. And he was so courteous to me. He said, "Well, Mark, we usually like to see a little more white on the page, kind of thing." And so I'm just very much aware of that when I'm teaching other people how to write piano accompaniments, like to have enough interest and not compete. Like when there's a long note, that the choir's holding out, that's when you can kind of do a lick here and there. But if there's all these really intense lyrics and stuff going on with lots of 16th, 8th notes that you're singing, you don't want to have the piano competing for attention there. So you'll get, and so it's like for all of you band and orchestra people, if every instrument were playing every single measure, wouldn't that be a train wreck?
Oh, yeah.
It would. It's like every instrument has its own part to play, but only in certain parts so that they stand out. So I had this insane request. People wanted me to write a commission for 3 pianists at 1 piano.
Oh, jeez.
3 pianos at 1
6-hand
piano.
piano.
6-hand piano. And they play a
Good
lot
band
of
name.
that. I guess they make it up. They make it up. And I thought, oh my gosh, how does that sound good? Because
I was thinking that.
of course everybody kind of wants to play something all the time, and you don't want to be left out for too many measures.
Yeah.
So it's just like it would be like an orchestra with all the instruments playing all the time. And I just said I'm not available. Thank you.
You're like, I don't
We
want
did that
That's
for
the best way of
I'm
saying
glad
it.
he didn't say that to us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's
So
like you're playing it and you're saying
That's a very
how
polite
many
way of saying it.
pieces?
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, we figured it out. Like, so he gets a royalty check for all here at Mama Rosa we buy all the original scores. And,
yeah. Thank you.
he got about $15.
Yeah. It's crazy. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, like for band music, it's like you charge 60, 70, 80. I mean, if you're a big name guy, you're charging over $100 for a full set of stuff. For choir, it's $1.50 for
It
a
is not
couple.
$1.50.
It's
It's
well,
yeah.
$2.75 for an
yeah,
octavo.
it's $1.75. Sorry.
Yeah.
But I have to buy 20, 30, 40, 50
Right.
of them.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
no, but
so-
I'm saying but the reason that ours is so expensive is because we have all the individual parts and then the score on top of that. Where yours is just the score. I mean, you could theoretically just buy one, and then
No, you
No.
can't. It's shame.
Well, no,
Shame.
but I'm not. No, I'm just.
You know
But
what?
I'm
You're
saying
off
like
pod.
the.
Yeah, kick him out.
Get your
No,
done.
but I'm saying with all the
Cancel.
parts on it, you can read it, and then that's just it. You obviously shouldn't do that because everyone should have their own copy of the music.
Yeah,
Obviously,
I want Mark Hayes to eat.
yeah.
I mean,
Right.
The bread line's getting long. for
Yeah,
Mark Hayes.
exactly. But anyway, but that's.
So is there any kind of a move toward having iPads and digital music here? at some point?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, like
No, thank you.
I would say I use an iPad myself just so that I can like not mark up the score too much for the next
Right.
person.
Yeah.
But like I remember when I student taught, the teacher at the time, he's retired now, would put like their parts up scanned on their Chromebooks just so that they could at least read it if they forgot their instrument. It was more
Yeah,
of just
yeah.
like a precaution of just making sure
Yeah.
everyone's playing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't see us doing that. Everyone kid has a Chromebook, but I don't think it's really feasible
As
to
we
use
said
it that
at the
way.
beginning, social media rots the brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's immediately what they would go to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even though we have countermeasures against it, it'd still be a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
Stick to
just
it.
noticed, like at ACDA at the National Convention in Dallas a couple weeks ago, where I saw several choirs, like university choirs. Everybody had an iPad instead of like a folder.
Interesting.
Or like there was a honors jazz choir, and like vocal jazz, not show choir but vocal jazz, and they all had iPads. So,
Yeah.
but they were from probably wealthy,
Oh.
uh,
yeah.
Dallas suburbs or
Private
something.
school.
Yeah. So
We put our money towards bringing the professionals.
there
in
you
to
go.
talk
I'm
about
on-
it.
we- yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, well, I mean, anything else from anybody else?
So, Mark,
Yes.
a lot of our kids obviously listen to this,
Yeah.
right? So, if you wouldn't mind, like, can you talk to them about your impression of them, what they did
Yeah.
today,
Yeah.
So they get that feedback from you when they listen to the podcast, not
got it,
me
you got it.
relaying
Right,
it.
sure.
Hey, here's what Mark said.
Yeah, yeah. I was very impressed with how well prepared all of the singers were. So I felt like I was always given attention and honor and respect, which doesn't always happen in every kind of school that I've walked into. You know, even though for the most part I get that, but so that I really felt like I could dig in and say, that was amazing, and let's make it even better. And everybody responded. So that is so cool. I also work with a lot of adults in community choruses or church choirs, and sometimes you go in and like you hear them and you go, okay, this is the level they're at. I'm going to have to lower my expectations and just make them have an enjoyable time and feel good about what they're doing, but they're not going to be able to do diction. They're not going to be able to do crescendos. Vibrato, what's that? I mean, too much vibrato maybe when you're older. So that was one of the big differences with the students at Monmouth Rosehill is I got to be able Roseville, sorry. I got to take it nuanced kinds of things and take it to that higher level, and you guys responded, and that felt really, really good to me as a composer especially, but also as a conductor. Because I know how I want it to sound, and I asked you to do different things that Mr. Flowers or Mr. Ferry had their own way of doing it, which they're totally cool. They get to do that, because they purchased the music. But to have me be able to explain how that worked, and you heard me, you were respectful of that, and then you did what I asked. So that felt so good to me, because that does not always happen. So thank you for that. And I think you're going to really blow them out of the water at this next contest you have. So Mr. Ferry said that just gave you a doctorate.
Dr. Ferry.
Mr. Ferry told me that you have quite the track record, and really won a lot of awards and all that. So I'm proud to be able to say that I maybe was part of helping you get your next award. So that would be really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Go Titans.
Go Titans.
Yeah, go Titans.
Yeah, go choir kids today. They were singing their butts off this morning.
Yeah.
Not easy to do at 8 a.m.
Yeah. And
That's
with
why we do it at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
with the bass choir too, I thought, okay, what is it going to be the balance between all the voices and stuff like that? And I was really pleasantly surprised that it was so well balanced and blended and all that, because that doesn't happen with tenors and basses as much as it could. So good job, Kevin, for pushing up to do that. Or David.
The prayer of the children was all David.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
I
David.
haven't-
Thank you.
I haven't
Thank you, Mr.
conducted that
Flowers.
one time.
And I think that was the first time they were all together, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that has some really tricky rhythms. There are a lot of kind of syncopations, because it's really a solo song. I don't know that it really was ever meant to be a choral kind of thing, but you have to, that's one of those things too, whenever I'm given a song to arrange, and it's like real improvised melody that could, the rhythms can be written down 5 different ways, because however the person that originally recorded sang it is kind of like almost unnotable. It's hard to notate it. And then you, as the arranger, have to decide, okay, this is what the rhythm's going to be. Or you might go, okay, they sang it one way on the first verse, and then just change it a little tiny bit on the second verse. And I know from so many years of experience, when you do that, then the choir goes, which way is it? The first or second way? Because they want to memorize it and have it be, the same each time, so they don't have to learn a new rhythm. And there were different rhythms all the way through this, and your choir knew every one of them. That is unusual. So, yay team.
Way to go, Kevin.
Yeah,
And David. Way to go, you guys. Well, Mr. Hayes, it was amazing time to have you. And I'm looking
Thanks.
forward to dinner, because we're going to talk more.
All right, you got
But
it.
unfortunately, we cannot take the podcast studio with us. So.
I
Wait,
saw a
this has got
hand
something.
raised.
Well, I just
Yeah.
wanted to say
Lisa,
my favorite part that I saw was you had the treble choir sit down for story time for Dry Bones, which is just I love that song so much.
Yeah.
And he listened to them do the whole performance, and then was like, "This is a story at the beginning. Sit down. We're gonna talk through this."
Yeah.
That was just so awesome to hear
Yeah.
from your mind to the
Right.
paper to their voices.
Yeah.
That was my favorite thing. Just like, oh my gosh, this is so valuable. They can try and figure out what this is telling, but
Right.
you were able to
Yeah.
give them exactly what you want it to be.
And it's unusual for me to get that much time to tell a story.
Yeah.
Usually it's like, you got 30 minutes to get through this song because we got to get on to the next one, and hopefully they'll get it. But that was super helpful.
No, that
so thanks
was-
for that extra time.
I really loved that you got done with the story, and the girls are still sitting there singing, and one girl goes, "Can we please stand up?" Please do, stand up.
Now was the time, yeah.
And then the audience was like dancing, and the final.
They were, it's like
like,
they
it
come
was-
up with the choreography.
Yeah.
Is that one of your first pieces that you included percussion instruments? I heard you talking to the students that were dancing that there's percussion instruments.
Well, right.
in it.
So I've written a lot of stuff with the rhythm section, but like it is orchestrated. So it has a rhythm section, but there's like orchestral percussion, you know, and so I try to use the percussion section as much as I can whenever I have the budget for an orchestra. So yeah, but this is one that kind of went over the top because it had all kinds of kind of comical sounds.
It's very wacky, and I think it's very funny at the legs bone connected to the bed bone, and then the ratchet or whatever it's called. And it's everything
whistle,
is different, and
right,
it's so
everyone
interesting.
had to be
That's
different,
fun.
you know. So it could be a cool thing to program or pantomime, you know, if you had it, you know, if you could find it, and you could probably even find other instruments if you don't have those that like kind of would be funny. Yeah,
awesome.
so it's kind of like when choirs ring handbells. Sometimes
Yes.
you know they can do that, or just there's staging things you can do to kind of make it really come alive. Yeah, so cool.
Anything else?
It was
great
awesome.
having
It was,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Seriously,
Glad to be here.
thank you
Glad
so
to be here.
much.
Shout out
Appreciate it.
Marquez.
Yeah.
Shout out Marquez.
Marquez.com.
Marquez.com.
Right,
at
yeah.
Gmail Mark or whatever it was.
It's-
I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
So whatever it was.
It's mark@markhays.com.
Oh, my
Mark
Mark-
at
oh,
markhays.com. Yeah, you know you made it when.
There's an app
Yeah.
next to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mine is not that fancy. Mine doesn't even have my name in it. It's just my initials. Anyway, but well, thank you again. We really do. Seriously, I mean, even if I wasn't there the whole day, but within the short time I was there, it was amazing to see our kids work for you and for you to take it to that extra level. And it's good to hear that like we're one of the few groups that actually help you take it to the next level.
Yeah,
like we are that much closer to what you envisioned for that piece to be, and I think that's a real honor. And I think our kids are gonna appreciate that come contest time.
Is this the time that he says that to everybody?
Yeah. And as soon as I shut off the mic, he's like, oh, look, I gotta be honest.
He's already called home and been like, oh, jeez.
No, I'm being honest here. So,
we'll appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again. We appreciate
Right.
your time, and let's all go hang
That's a
out and
wrap.
get some more.
Let's go have some food.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have to wrap it up, and
Okay.
and what we'd say is we say "girl bye," but make it really long. So
Okay.
we're gonna try to all do it together. Ready?
Oh,
Here
wait
we
a
are.
minute, and you gotta do it in a high pitched voice.
Oh, high pitched
You gotta
voice.
put it in your false.
Falsetto. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Bye.
Girl bye.